हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू स्टडी विद वर्षा। आज हम करेंगे बीए फर्स्ट ईयर सेकंड सेमेस्टर सोशियोलॉजी यूनिट 4 सोशल क्लासेस इन इंडिया, रूरल क्लासेस, अर्बन क्लासेस, अपर क्लासेस, मिडिल क्लासेस, दलित, बैकवर्ड क्लासेस। Rural class in India. Social stratification in rural India is a complex interplay of jati, land ownership, and economic power. Unlike urban areas where class is often defined purely by income or occupation, rural social classes are deeply intertwined with traditional aggregate structure. Landlords, large landowners, Bhuswami or Zamindars. This class sit at the top of rural hierarchy. Their own large tracts of fertile land, but rarely engaged in physical agricultural labor themselves. Social and economic power, historically belonging to upper or dominant caste, they held immune political and social influence over the village. They often lose out their land or hire agricultural laborers to cultivate it. Cultivators and rich peasant kisan. These are important farmers who own medium-sized landholdings. They possess enough land to sustain their family and generate a market surplus. Economic and social power. They often belong to the dominant caste. Jati, Yadav, Marathas, Venklas. While they perform manual labor on their own field, they also hire external labor during peak harvesting season. They are highly influenced in local rural politics. Small and marginalized farmers. This class own very small, often fragmented pieces of land. They are barely sufficient for subsistence, economic and social power because their land productivity is low and heavily dependent on monsoon. Their economic status is precocious. During off seasons, members of this class frequently look for casual wage labor in nearby town or a large farm to supplement their income. Agricultural laborers and landless peasants positioned at the bottom of economic pyramid. This class owns no agricultural land. They survive entirely by selling their physical labor on the farms of large landowners and rich peasants. Social and economic power. This class is disproportionately represented by scheduled caste, Dalit, scheduled tribes, and certain backward classes. They face several economic exploitation, seasonal unemployment, and social marginalization. Upper class. The upper class in India represent a small but highly influenced percentage of the population. This class holds a disproportionate share of nation's wealth, economic sources, and political influence. Unlike the middle class, which relies heavily on salaried income, the upper class derives its status from substitutional capital assets ownership, generational wealth, and high level corporate or political authority. The institutional and cooperative elite old money. This includes traditional businesses, dynasties, promoters of large conglomerates, and multi-generational industries. Their wealth is long-standing and deeply tied to major national and global industries. The New Age entrepreneurship and tech billionaire new money. This segment consists of first generation founders of successful startups, technology innovates, and virtue capitals. Their rise is fueled by the modern digital economy, global investments, and rapid market valuation. Top tier professionals and executives. This group includes high ranking corporate executives, CEOs, managing directors, elite bureaucrats, top legal consultants, and highly successful media personalities or celebrities. While they are salaried, their compensation package, stock options, and social capital place them firmly within the upper class. Key features: global lifestyle. This class exhibits high transnational mobility, luxury consumption, ownership of premium real estate, and access to exclusive global network. Social and political leverages. They possess significant lobbying power and influence over economic politics, industrial regulations, and national discourse. Philanthropy and elite education. Educational pattern lie heavily towards Ivy legal universities or top tier global institutions, often followed by active participation in high impact philanthropy and art patronage. Middle class. In Indian middle class is one of the most dramatic and influential segment of country's population. Unlike the rural, which is heavily tied to land and agriculture, and urban middle class is often primarily by education, occupation, and purchasing power. It is not a uniform group but is broadly divided into three subgroups: the upper middle class, the mid middle class, and lower middle class. The upper middle class includes heavily paid professionals, corporates, executives, large businesses owners, and senior government officers. They possess high proportional income and luxurious lifestyle. The mid-middle class comprises the traditional backbone of this segment: school teachers, mid-level government employees, bank staff, and white-collar office workers. They valued financial stability, higher education for their children, and property ownership. The lower middle class, the emerging middle class, includes small shopkeepers, clinic staff, sales executive, and skilled technicians. They have moved out of poverty but remain vulnerable to economic shocks. Key features: driven by education. High education is valued as the ultimate tool for upward social mobility. Consumption. This class is primarily driven of Indian domestic market, demanding high-tech gadgets, automobile, real estate, and quality healthcare. Shift in values, moving away from traditional caste-bound occupations toward merit-based salaried jobs in the services, IT, and corporate sectors. Backward classes. The term backward classes in India referred to a diverse category of socially and educationally disadvantaged groups. Unlike the economic definition of class, backwardness is the Indian context is historically rooted in the traditional caste hierarchy, social marginalization, and lack of representation in state administration. In legal and constitutional terms, This group is broadly identified as the other backward classes, OBCs, distinct from scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Social and structural position. The middle ranks of caste hierarchy. OBCs generally belong to the Shudra one in the traditional hierarchy, positioning them below the forward upper caste but above the scheduled caste. They are often traditional artisans, agrarians, or service caste. Internal stratification. The backward classes are heavily fragmented. Socialists often divided them into extremely backward classes, most backward classes, landless artisans, small scale service provider, and nomadic group facing acute social deprivation. Dominant backward classes, agrarian communities that gained sufficient land ownership post independence due to land reforms, and while substantial local political power, even though they remain educationally backward. The role of state and constitutional mechanism. The Kaka-Karlekar Commission 1953, the first national attempt to identify backward classes, which used caste as a primary criterion for backwardness. The Mandal Commission 1979, headed by B.P. Mandal, this commission identified 11 criteria: social, educational, and economic, and estimated that OBCs comprised roughly 52% of India's population. It recommended a 27% reservation in central government jobs and public educational institutions, which was implemented in the early 1990s. The creamy layer concept, introduced by Supreme Court to ensure equity. This mechanism includes the wealthy and advanced individuals among the OBCs from enjoying reservation benefits, routing them instead to the truly disadvantaged. Dalit. The term Dalit, meaning oppressed, broken, or crushed, is a political and self-aggressive identity adopted by communists traditionally placed at the absolute bottom of Indian caste hierarchy. In the Indian constitution, they are officially designed as scheduled caste, historically subjected to the practice of untouchability. Dalits face deep-rooted structural inequality. Their social and economic realities are deeply intertwined, where caste status directly restricts economic mobility. Social condition and challenges. The stigma of untouchability. Despite being legally abolished under Article 17 of the Indian Constitution, informal practice of social exclusion and untouchability persists, particularly in rural areas. This manifests as restriction on drawing water from common well, entering temple, or sharing dining space with dominant caste. Atrocities and violence. Dalits frequently faced physical violence, systematic humiliation, and hate crimes while attempting to assess their fundamental rights, access public resources, or marry outside their community. The Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989 was enacted specially to combat this issue. Residential segregation. The most Indian villages, Dalit hamlets, are structurally separated from main village settlement, typically located downwind or downstream. enforcing physical and social isolation, economic vulnerabilities, landlessness, and access deprivation. Land is the primary source of economic power in rural India. A vast majority of Dalit families are landless or own marginal, unproductive patches of land. This lack of assessed ownership forces them into economic dependency or dominant caste landowners, occupational traps, and unfair labor. Due to historical restrictions, many Dalits remain trapped in poorly paid, stigmatized, and hazardous occupations. They are disproportionately represented in agricultural and manual ways, labor, construction, sanitation work, and manual salvaging. The caste premium in the market. Even in urban modern economics, discrimination persists in informal hiring practices. Studies show that equal education qualification do not allow translate into equal employment opportunities for Dalit candidates due to deep-seated biasness in professional network. Pathway to employment constitutional safeguard. Under the leadership of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, constitutional mechanisms like reservation in higher education, government employment, and political bodies have created a distinct Dalit middle class and leadership elite. Political mobilization. Political parties and grassroots social movements have successfully shifted Dalits from passive victims of the system to depressive political actors capable of influencing state and national elections. These are some MCQs related to your chapter. These are total of 20 MCQs. You can read these MCQs and these MCQs will help in your exam. And for more units, like, share and subscribe to my channel.